down it comes. Okay, morning guys. So back up at the garage this morning, and although it was raining all of last night, literally until about 5 o'clock this morning, when I got up an hour later or an hour and a half later, it was completely white. So this is about 10 o'clock and it's already started to thaw, but it's coming down with massive flakes earlier, but it's just too warm at the moment for it to stay. So it's about 1 degree, 1 degree in the garage as well. But so today, I've got 2 packages I got delivered today. I'll show you them both in a minute. But the other thing is I'm just off to a friend of mine's house, and he's got an engine hoist for me. This guy's basically got 2 of everything, and he's helped me out quite a bit in the workshop. And he mentioned on Friday last week that when I was moving the gearbox of the Porsche around, he said you could do with an engine hoist for that, and he said he's got 2 and I can have one of them. So I'm going to go off there. Off to pick it up now, so I'll catch up with you in a bit. Okay, so I just picked up the engine hoist, and it's very heavy. 2 of us put it in the car, but I ended up having to get it out on my own. But it's massive, really cool. So I'm going to set it up now, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's set. Okay, that is it fully set up. It packs away really, really nicely, and has the handles on the back there to be able to pull it around. And it carries 500 kilos. But obviously you have to be careful, or you can only carry 500 kilos when this is right in, and it goes less and less as it goes out, down to 150 kilos when it's right out. I don't know which setting this is at the moment, but probably in the middle somewhere. But really cool, really pleased with that. Be able to help me move the gearbox around and things like that, and obviously lift engines up. Okay, I'm just going to use the Dremel there with a very fine wire brush to see if I can get out the crusty bits on this gearbox. Okay, so I've done pretty much all I can on the gearbox. All that needs doing, I've cleaned the inside and I've cleaned the outside. I've also cleaned up any rust that was here, specifically on this shift mechanism, and then I've given it a coat of hammerite on all the exposed areas. So looking a lot better. Same on the other side, down the line around there. And obviously you can polish these things and make them really look good, but then, yeah, I'm just not going to go that far. It's looking a lot better than it did before. So, yeah, I'm going to leave it like that. I've actually got to get to the bottom still. So just to finish off cleaning up there, but that's looking pretty good. Hi guys, so you saw from yesterday's video, I spent pretty much all of the time, maybe 5 or 6 hours, cleaning up the gearbox, the Getrag gearbox. It's come up pretty well, but in the process, I had to obviously remove some small parts, like this bracket here, which comes off here, and I'm going to fix those back up. And also didn't get to the bottom yet, so I'm going to work out a way of cleaning the bottom. What I did do at one point was just turn this up on end, but essentially the oil not pours, but starts to come out of this breather valve here, so not ideal. As you can see, a bit more cleaning up to do. It's looking pretty good on the inside. That'll do, I think, like that. And then that's essentially done then. But what I want to do is, I bought all of the stuff for electroplating recently. If you've seen Jeffrey Croker, he's a Land Rover restorer, and he's got a fantastic channel, so go over there and check that out. And he does a really cool step-by-step guide to electroplating. Hi Jeffrey, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for all the help. And I'm going to try that because I've got all the stuff. I've got a piece of nickel for my electrode, I think is the right word. And I'm just going to set myself up. It takes a little bit of time to set up. You've got to prepare the solution first. Takes a couple of hours. I've got all the parts to do that, so I'm going to do that this morning. So I've always wanted to do electroplating, and yeah, it'd be just really cool to be able to reuse some of the bolts that I've got on the Porsche, because each of them are so expensive. I mean, yes, it's time consuming cleaning them up and plating them, but it's just nice to be able to reuse them. And of course, it's something that I could have done really when I was doing the Land Rover because there are tons of bolts there which I just reused, and I guess they could have done with some electroplating. Some I painted, some I didn't. But yeah, you've just got to weigh up how much time you have with regards to how far you go with the restoration. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do today. As you can see, I think, focus on the outside, it is snowing still. It's been snowing pretty much constantly for 2 weeks over here. Sometimes it settles and you get about 5 inches of snow, and then sometimes it just melts by the evening, but it's all very wintry. Okay, so I've got everything I need here. Here's my piece of nickel, which I'm going to cut in half with some of these tin snips. I've got, I think that's a litre of vinegar. I've got some salt to assist the conductivity. I've got an old Nokia phone charger from back in the day. Oh no, Sony Ericsson. And it's less than an amp, so you're supposed to use a charger which is an output less than an amp. I think that's 450 milliamps. Yep, 450 milliamps. And I haven't got any crocodile clips, but I've got these small pegs here which I will just attach to the nickel. So this is the jar I'm going to use. I've got a top for it over there. And as Jeffrey says, if you don't contaminate this drastically, you can go on using this mixture for years. So the first step is to put the vinegar into here. I'll probably do up to here if it takes that much. Stir in some salt. Cut my nickel in half, 2 strips. I mean, it's actually quite a small piece, so I'm going to have to see how that works. And then I am going to put a current to it. So it needs a couple of hours to turn it into the right solution. And then after that you can start. Okay, so that's the vinegar with the salt solution. I've got my electrodes. I think they're called anodes actually. It's called a nickel anode. And I've cut it in half, wired them up and plugged it in. And as you can see, it's a bit murky in there because I've just stirred the salt, and actually I've got to stir that better because the salt is literally just piled at the bottom. But you can see the negative terminal has started to bubble, which is exactly what should be happening. I'm not too keen on the joint that I've got up there, but it does seem to, the electrical joint there, but it does seem to be working, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and we'll just leave that for a couple of hours and it will hopefully turn green. Okay, so I've got these parts cleaned up. They're actually not that old and I think they're fine to reuse. And I've also got this part put back on here. I've just got to check what the torque settings are for these bolts going into the gearbox here, but yeah, it's starting to come together. So, quick update on my plating. You can see now quite clearly after an hour and 15 minutes, I've got 45 minutes to go, but it's starting to go greeny blue, green more, and that's becoming ready for plating, so I'm quite excited. Stopping to make a cup of tea, and just a quick update, that's all. So yeah, looking good. Okay, so my 2 hours is more or less up, and I have now removed the anode which is attached to the negative cable. So now I have left the positive in there and connected my 2 bolts, which are essentially the the bolts which hold the selector cables onto the gearbox into these 2 holes here. And they, you can see that they are plating nicely. I'm just doing the heads, so I'm not doing the whole bolts because they don't all need doing. And I've set the timer for 40 minutes. Just check that they're all submerged. And I'll sit in about 20 minutes or so, halfway through, I will swap them around. Just sort of turn it round so they get plated on both sides nicely. But that seems to be working quite well. Okay, so I've just switched the plating off, and I just sort of saw before that it hasn't really worked. And I'm guessing either it's not been in there long enough, or it's more likely, it's worked a little bit, you can see, more likely that it just wasn't clean enough. But it's my first try, so I'll have to get those cleaner and try again. But it was good fun trying that for the first time. And actually, just having cleaned those up or dried them off, it has worked. Maybe it needs longer, maybe it needs to be cleaner, but it certainly worked. They're looking a lot brighter. So not an entire failure. I'll use them like this, I think they're fine. Okay, so I've just put the finishing touches to that, to the gearbox. Those are my plated bolts that I put in there, and actually they do look a lot better. Torque those down, and that is pretty much as I'm going to do on the gearbox. I've checked the mount, it's fine. There is no cracking, minimal flex. But yeah, that is as far as I'm going to go on the gearbox.